Did you know that praying mantises can fly a little bit? I didn't until one flew right in front of my lawnmower. They're so crazy. The beings are really testing my presence today. There are so many, like the whole ground is alive. It's wild, but I guess that's why I get the beautiful choral music at night. So, trade-offs. Also, not so fun fact about praying mantises. They hunt hummingbirds. It's crazy. Look it up. Nature. Love you. Welcome to the third episode of Noticing, a podcast about nothing and everything at the same time. In this episode, we talk a lot about gifts, the gifts of mowing your lawn, of the bees, of being with someone towards the end of their life, and most importantly, the gift of presence. In this episode, as always, what you'll hear is the felt truth of our experience. If we dip into the world of science, you can trust it's directionally true, but not necessarily an academic citation. So if you're someone who loves the facts, we've included links and deeper dives in the show notes. I hope you enjoy.
So I am reading Joanna Macy's World is Lover, World is Self. I think I heard about this book when I listened to an On Being podcast with her. And then I remember telling you about it. And you were like, wow, yeah, she was a major teacher of mine. Um, did she actually teach you or did you just really?
Like in person, it was a workshop. So I didn't have, because she's an adjunct.
I know.
I'm still not. Yeah. I mean, is. Well, she's still a great teacher of mine. That is still very present. But her physical being, yes, has moved on. Like 95. I mean, and teaching up to the last days of her life. It's incredible. She is incredible. But yes, she was an adjunct professor of the grad school that I went to. So I did it was like not a full semester class, but like a workshop on deep time. And it was so embodied. And she just has a presence. She just has such a presence and made such a huge impact on me. Yeah. Yeah. She's incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing that you got to be in the same space as her and understand that presence, feel it.
Mhm.
Um, so this book is just profound on many levels. And actually, what I wanted to share is not even a quote from her. It's a quote that she quotes. So she quotes um, John Seed, who is the founder of the Rainforest Information Center in Australia. And this paragraph is what I was thinking about. And it reminded me so much about lots of different conversations that you and I have had. So I thought I would read it.
Perfect.
So he says, when humans investigate and see through their layers of anthropocentric self-cherishing, a most profound change in consciousness begins to take place. Alienation subsides. The human is no longer an outsider apart. Your humanness is then recognized as being merely the most recent stage of your existence. As you stop identifying exclusively with this chapter, you start to get in touch with yourself as vertebrate, as mammal, as species, only recently emerged from the rainforest. As the fog of amnesia disperses, there is a transformation in your relationship to other species and in your commitment to them. The thousands of years of imagined separation are over, and we can begin to recall our true nature. That is, the change is a spiritual one, thinking like a mountain, sometimes referred to as deep ecology.
Mm.
As your memory improves, there is an identification with all life. Remember our childhood as rocks, as lava? Rocks contain the potentiality to weave themselves into such stuff as this. We are the rocks dancing.
Mm. Hmm.
So as I'm reading this book, I'm dog-earing pages, and that one had a crease immediately. And I was thinking, I think I can look back in my life and recall many moments where I felt more myself in nature.
Mhm.
And he puts words to that memory, that remembering. You and I talk about remembering all of the time.
Mhm.
Um, it's just so beautiful. We are the rocks
Mhm.
dancing. Rocks don't
Mhm.
have feet. We get to move, like,
I'm giggling because what instantly came to mind was that scene in Everything Everywhere All at Once where they are rocks and they have the little googly eyes and
oh
she's
my
like,
God.
rocks don't move, and the mom rock like wiggles towards her and then she puts on the googly eyes, and um it's like it's, I mean, it's expressing the same thing, that we are the rocks dancing and shimmering and wanting to relate to each other, and we are the rocks with googly eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so it just landed really deep in me. And it got me thinking about the fact that sometimes, if like I can remember being a kid in a car because I moved around a lot, and the way we moved ourselves from place to place was in a car on cross country trips.
Mhm.
And I can remember looking out of the windows and seeing trees and thinking like, I'm actually just looking at like grass in the garden, you know, or Queen Anne's lace, a big fluffy tree that's 30 or 40 feet tall looks just like Queen Anne's lace in the garden if you're laying
Mm.
down looking at it on the side.
Like when you
Um,
change your perspective and
exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Um, and then it got me thinking about this time that you said, because I think you get a lot of your big, bright ideas. Some people get them in the shower. I think you, Becky, get them when you mow your lawn.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Mhm.
I've turned it into, first of all, it's, being in nature. And I think that's the biggest thing is being outside. And for the uninitiated in my life, mowing my lawn takes about 4+ hours because we have 2+ acres. And I don't say stupidly bought a push mower because I think it's been a great teacher. I think, sometimes you make decisions in your life to not buying the riding lawnmower, the logical choice or the practical choice, and it ends up being a great teacher. And that's what this decision has been. So, yeah, it's first of all, I'm out in nature for a long time, and I intentionally turned it into a walking meditation. So instead of getting so frustrated that I made this stupid, quote unquote, stupid decision, and that, you know, kicking myself for not being more in shape. So it's so hard.
Mm.
It's like, no, let me slow down. I set an intention before I start to cause as little harm as possible because when you slow down, so when we used to have someone do our lawn, I would go out and I would find snakes like chopped up and dismembered because the guy was just going so fast. And when I started doing it myself, I saw all these bees in the flowers and they don't move, right? They don't move.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Of course it's not going to move. Like it doesn't, like when you're that small, I mean, what would be the scale of a bee to us, like us to something else, like a
Mm.
skyscraper? Would you notice if the skyscraper, like, would you move if there was a skyscraper right next to you? No, you go about your business. It's
Hmm.
like the scale is unfathomable. Um, but yeah, so I've turned it into this very intentional walking meditation where my intention is to do as little harm as possible, which means I have to go slow. Because if I'm just totally mindless mowing the lawn, I'm going to run over so many bees. Um, and of course, like I'm not perfect. I run over bees, I get lost in thought, and then come back to presence. But it's that presence for me and nature, but it's the presence I think that allows these clarity moments to come through. So it's been a
I think
beautiful
so.
practice.
Yeah. And didn't you say there was I'm like there was one day where you sent me a voice memo and you were just like it just hit me when I was going so slowly and I was paying attention to where the bees were and I was consciously not, running them over with the lawnmower and then I thought about the life cycle of a bee and
Yeah.
how long a day is for a bee. Like,
Yeah.
can you remember what you said? Can you remember your thought process on that and share that? Or can you put yourself in that place again?
Yeah, I can try. I don't I can't remember if I was mowing the lawn that time, but I was outside and I saw a bee and I think I sat down in the grass and like sat next to it and I really started to connect with the perspective of the bee. And I think a lot about time. I think time is really interesting because we think of time as, this fixed thing, but it's not. It's actually not fixed. Einstein pointed to this that time is relative. Um, but we're trapped in it. We're trapped in time. We can't physically escape time because we are a three-dimensional being living within time. But our imaginations and our consciousness can transcend time.
Mm.
So it was this moment of connecting to the bee and the bee's life. I assume it's like a year. I don't even know, but it's shorter than mine. Let's just say that.
Mhm.
um, so how does that shape their relationship to time?
Mm.
And not that I'm saying that the bees are sitting around thinking about time, but like what is their experience of time? How is one moment. So a bee's life is condensed. If your life is, 1 year,
Yeah.
every day is, you know, 1/365th of your life. If your life is 75, 80 years, that day can feel much shorter. So if we can connect with the perspective of other beings, my experience of it is it slowed time down.
Mm.
And it like that those few minutes that I was connecting with the bee felt spacious and expansive. And um yeah, I think a lot about that. And I think
Mm.
that's what nature can teach us so much.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I think in a lot of in most people's day to day, at least like in our Western culture, they might find that sitting down, like taking that thought of like, maybe I'll sit down and watch a bee, that actually is a waste of time.
Yeah,
So I think you're right. I think that you actually you weren't mowing your lawn when you had this thought, but I think consciously mowing your lawn helped serve you this thought later.
absolutely.
So you start to relate to nature in a way that allows you in your human day to day, where you are going grocery shopping and doing all the things, keeping your house clean, whatever, where you are more subject to time. I think that because you can take small moments to experience timelessness, you're able to integrate it into your human existence, which is a really worthwhile thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I've started doing this with my kids too. Speaking of like cycles of time and paying attention to nature, we found milkweed in the meadow that I planted in the backyard, and every day, a couple of times a day, I take them out and we look at what's happening. And it's kind of amazing what happens with them. I was thinking about it last night, and you learn this in grade school. There's like the like pupate stage, and then there's the chrysalis stage, and then inside of the chrysalis, this thing literally changes itself completely.
Yeah.
From I mean, it's so mind-boggling to me and so beautiful that we can watch as outsiders and watch this incredible transformation take place. And I don't know how you could spend time doing that as a human being and not reflect that experience back on yourself.
Mm-hmm. So what was hitting me is, and it's tying back to the passage that you read in the beginning. In order for me to have that experience with the bee, I first had to respect its life, and I think
Yes.
you're right that the mowing, that the intention that I set and the conscious practice of mowing my lawn, I was respecting the life of the bees because we move so fast as a species in our modern culture, and because we aren't taught to, we are brought up in anthropomorphism where we are the apex species, and every other species is here for our extraction or our, their resource, or they're in the way. That's the culture that we're, the modern culture. Definitely not all of human evolution. It's just our modern culture. When you step into your relationship with the ecosystem, you find respect for all these beings. And how can you ever receive messages from something that you don't even see? You're
Right.
not even, and I don't mean like see with your eyes, but I mean really see as like you are a being who has just as much right to be here on this planet as I do. And
Mhm.
you as a being, whether you're conscious or not, like we're not going to debate how, like the complexity of I'm not going to compare a bee's thoughts to my thoughts as a form
No.
of value. Like they're here, I'm here. We both want to be here. We both deserve to be here. That's
Yeah.
it. I don't need to justify it.
Mhm.
Um, and when you step into that, I think you just learn so much. And yeah, it's been a great gift because really it's I'm getting the gift. It's not me like saving the bees because I run over plenty of bees. That's the other thing is like I'm a skyscraper trying to like not cause harm to tiny beings. So of course I'm going to cause harm, but can I cause as little harm as possible and respect to the best of my abilities the other beings that I share this planet with? The other thing that was coming up is around time. And you were talking about like bringing that presence into your everyday. And that really has been the biggest gift, because, and you said like some people would think that's a waste of time
Mhm.
of sitting with the bees. And it comes up for me of like, even the way we talk about time, we spend time, we
I
waste
know.
time. And it's so ingrained, but it's like we think of time as this commodity or this resource. Um, how is it possible to waste time? Like time is just the time is like the atmosphere. How can you waste that? I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's just a product of capitalism and being in a society where producing is the most highly valued thing.
Mhm.
I question that
Yeah.
because how much value did I get out of that? And then it stretches those moments into, yeah, when I'm grocery shopping and like, can I slow that down and like really like step into the presence of the bee and
Mm.
slow that experience down so I take in more of the experience? Because our brains, the way it processes time and the way we experience time is when we are really present, we're encoding more sensory details. So we're taking in the colors, the textures, and it makes time feel more spacious. So like if you when you go on vacation and you're in a new environment and you're not as stressed maybe and your obligations aren't there, you're encoding a lot more data and it can feel very spacious if we're present. But if when we're at home and we're doing the same thing over and over again and we're not present, it feels so condensed. That's why time feels shorter the older we get and our life becomes more routine. So I don't know how long I'm going to be on this planet, but I want it to feel as long and spacious as possible. So it's such a gift that I can bring it into every, like, or try to practice. I can practice
Practice.
bringing it into all these places.
Hmm. Um, yeah, and it's something that I really value as a parent, like bringing my kids into this experience. Um, and sometimes it can feel, like they have a lot of friends who have all these gadgets and digital doodads and screens and little cars that they drive each other around in down the street. And then when kids come to our house, I'm like, here are some sticks and a pair of scissors and a little jar for collecting flowers. Also, make sure that you find that lemon balm around the corner and put your hands in it and then smell what it smells like.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
what my dad taught us to do. In summertime, he would take us on these little woods walks and we would find the berries growing and we would eat them.
Mm.
Um, but like leave some for animals, right? It's just our presence in the natural world as a part of the natural world and not separate from the natural world is something that we always have access to, regardless of the things that we own. You know, like I could be having a really great year where my career is skyrocketing and I feel the power of that. And I could have a year where things are very slow and I'm giving myself a sabbatical to just sit and be present in my life. And the opportunities to exist inside of the natural world are the same in both
Hmm.
instances. Um, it's just, I don't know. The more I the more I think about this, the more that I just want to remind everybody all the time that you can be quote unquote successful and still be slow and reverent to the I judge to be the right thing. To be
Yeah.
slow and reverent towards.
Yeah.
Um, Also, I always consciously try to learn the names of things, talking about
Mm.
like when you were saying how can you see something, quote unquote, see something, um, if you don't acknowledge its existence as being what it is. And especially after moving here to this old house with these old trees and such soul here, I would walk around the yard and meet plants as if they were friends. Like,
Hmm.
what is your name? I have the internet to find that out. So I'm going to go learn it and I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper, just the same as I do with my neighbors, so that when they walk by, I can call them by their name.
Mm.
So Amy might walk by with her dogs and I can say, look at this blue aster around the corner. They're the
Mm.
same.
Yeah.
Amy and
Yeah.
the Aster, right?
That's,
And I
I
love that.
feel like that's the name of a good book. Amy and the Aster.
Yeah, it does have or like a band name,
Oh
maybe. It has
yeah.
a good ring.
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. The relationships are different, you know,
hmm.
like your relationship with your dog is different than your relationship with your wife. You
Hmm.
can you can have a different communion with them, and it doesn't make one better than the other, but this is like what I've been thinking about so much lately.
Yeah.
Is yeah.
It's so interesting. And this comes back to something we've talked about so many times of like our differences and yet similarities, because as you were reflecting on like you like to name them, I have found for me, and this is what is so beautiful, is there's no wrong way, there's no
Mm,
perfect way to relate to nature. Naming takes me out of it. So I tend to just like be, it feels like I just want to be with them in my
mhm,
body. And when I think about this with the birds, I listen to the birds and I watch them, and when I start thinking what kind of bird is this, because it
mm,
doesn't come naturally for me. Like I've watched, like this is very natural for you to name them, and this is what's so beautiful is everyone's different and there's no right way to commune with nature. So for me it's like I've given that up. I'll see the same plant probably my whole life and have no idea what kind of plant it is, but
yeah.
I'll witness it. I'll witness that individual plant and be with it, or I'll listen to that individual bird for 20 minutes, and have no idea what species it is, or
Yeah.
but so yeah, there's
Yeah.
it's and it's always available. You don't need, like, we both are very lucky that we have a lot of access to nature, but
Mhm,
it does, like, look out your window. You could commune with the sky. You could commune with the pigeons if you're living in the city.
mhm.
Just something
Absolutely.
beyond yourself. Mhm.
There's always a moment every year too, thinking about people, because I'm aware of that too. It's all expanded here since I'm in a much deeper natural place here. So everything, my sense of all of this has just expanded so much. But even, I would find these experiences in New York City plenty
Mhm.
of times.
Yep.
There's even just very simply the sound of leaves when they come into being every year and they touch each
Mhm.
other. You get
Mm.
this rustling sound, and there's a day that has not happened, and there's the day that it happens, and that happens
Mm.
every year.
Yeah,
The day the leaves suddenly are here and can blow, and they tell you the wind is here, and you can orient yourself towards nature anywhere. Light,
absolutely.
light,
Light.
water, yeah, yeah.
And it's also like stepping out of that separation that there is nature out there and then there's me, or there's humans. We are a part of nature. So even living in a city and looking for just the light, looking for, there is life all around you. And
Mhm,
it's different in a city. I think that's why both of us gravitated towards being in nature,
mhm,
but it is there. Your description was beautiful. Like when I lived in the city every weekend, probably also because I was very broke, but I would just
mhm.
walk, and it was, um, I would walk to Central Park. I would, just walk the streets, and it's so alive.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's just orienting to what's alive, um, no matter where you are, what environment you're in, what is alive around you. And there is no separation between nature and humans. I think what I found challenging towards the end of living in a city is when you're in a city, so much of it is human made and it's predominantly human. And we are the youngest species. We're learning how to be human, so we're causing a lot of harm. And I think when you're in a city, you're confronted with that.
Mm.
And you maybe are a little more detached from the older beings. the rocks, the
Mhm.
trees, the ones that have been on this planet through five mass extinctions and change and upheaval. And I think when you're connecting with something so much more ancient, who
Mhm.
know how to be and who know how to be alive,
Mhm.
it makes it a little easier for me. It gives me like a grounding point in, oh, we're just young. We're just
Yeah.
like it reorients me.
Yeah, I feel that too. I think that I found this essence of this feeling even in New York City
Hmm.
through witnessing all the different ways that people can exist together and separately. And um like I remember walking. I would always walk too. That's the best
Hmm.
part about living in a city. You're just walking
Hmm.
everywhere. And I remember one time texting a newer friend of mine and saying, and maybe this was my way of just feeling it out. Like, is she on the same wavelength as I am? Do other people feel this way? And I was walking through a park in the East Village, and it was like fall, and so the leaves were falling off of the trees, and kids were playing with their families. You see so much. There's like someone who is unhoused, and
Hmm.
a family playing, and elderly people walking, and jazz in the park, and the the smell of cider donuts and stuff. And it's a sensory overload in a different way than when you're in
Hmm.
nature.
Yeah.
Um, but it still is a sensory overload. And I texted her and I said, "Do you ever just get the feeling of everything being illuminated in your life and you feel your place in the family of things? And it's such an overwhelming sensation, but I have it all the time." And I think she was probably like, "Oh, okay." I don't think she thought I was strange, but I wonder if maybe that planted a little seed. Like, what is Christina high? No, I'm not high.
Christina's never high.
Christina's never high. I
Not
am
necessarily
drugged.
the case with me, but
Yeah,
Christina's always high on life.
life, and even in New York City, where there's like poop on the ground and a rat that crosses my path, and all of these different things, there's still this really grounding feeling that's equally lifted of just, oh, I get to be a part of this thing.
Hmm.
And everything is humming around me.
Hmm.
And granted, it's a much greater, more faceted and full feeling doing that in the salt marsh in the fall than
Mm.
in a New York City park. But it's still sort of there.
Yeah, it's
But it's
absolutely
there.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel it now. I think I had to leave the city to do some work. So what's coming up for me is like even the way you describe it of like the poop on the street and the unhoused, like you're not glossing over the more uncomfortable things.
Mm.
And I don't think you ever have. And I think for me, I had to do some work around discomfort and like being able to see those things is what I was alluding to before, is like the suffering that humans can cause.
Mhm.
That I think it's just coming up for me now, but I think that was part of what was hard of being in the city is because you are
Sure.
confronted with it. And I didn't want to shut it down. That's not my nature, is to like look away.
Mhm.
But I didn't quite know how to hold it when I was there. And it is a different experience when I go back now. Now I feel like I was just there right before I went to Esalen, actually. I stayed in the city overnight and I felt so alive and it was
Mhm.
amazing. And I was like waving to people in the streets and like,
Oh
like
my God.
bringing my presence and my aliveness because I'm able to hold all of it in a much different way now. Whereas I think it was really weighing on me because
Mm.
I think a survival tactic for a lot of people in cities. is to shut down, to like shut out all of the aliveness because it's a lot to hold. It's a lot to
Yeah.
hold. And in nature, it's not that it doesn't exist in nature. Watch a nature documentary and you'll see plenty of
Yeah.
violence.
Yes.
But you're not, nature is so expansive, you're not confronted with it. But when you pack so much in a city, you can't really escape it.
Mhm.
At least that was my experience of it.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because you did have a long, I feel like a part of your awakening was really embracing the fact that discomfort is just a part of life and to just
Yeah.
be able to go through it. And
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's so interesting.
What do you attribute anything to your natural ability to just kind of hold it all?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about. I think it's probably my mom.
Same one.
I think my mom is, she is so good at being with everything,
Mm,
being with hardship, being with um, joyfulness. She was a nurse growing up when we were kids. And
mm,
when we were younger, going in elementary school, she became a night nurse at like an elderly care facility and a nursing home. She was a night nurse at a nursing home. And sometimes she would bring us there during the
oh,
day.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. I remember the smell of those
Mm,
places because it's a very different smell that smells like bodies who have been around for a long time. And she
mhm,
would take us in and she wouldn't even, I don't remember her trying to like protect our feelings or give us any information beforehand.
mhm.
She was just like, let's go visit my friend.
Mm,
And we would go, and sometimes we would walk into a room and there would be a person in a bed and they wouldn't speak. And mom would just talk to them, introduce us to them like it was any other human being.
mm.
Um, yeah, she's a pretty special person in that way. So, um, yeah,
Such a gift. It's such a gift she gave you.
yeah, because it really doesn't, I really don't think I gloss over. I think I'm someone who naturally orients towards light,
Hmm.
but um it's not in an ignoring a darkness kind of way.
No.
Um Andrew, my husband, always tells me that I'm like a Brahms symphony.
A what
He's a
symphony?
musician. He's a musician and he says that I'm like a Brahms symphony
Brahms.
where yeah, some people might take this as kind of a dig, but it isn't because he was like, you're like a Brahms symphony. You just like, you're always what you are. Like I'll face something that's difficult with him just as quickly as I'll face something that's easeful.
Yep.
I was taught that. I
Yeah.
was taught that mostly by my mom. Yeah, I don't know. The nursing home thing is an interesting thing. I've thought about that a lot because death has never frightened me. We were
Mm,
walking into rooms where people had just passed or were maybe confused and didn't know how
mm,
to talk to kids or were very, very much like, oh, I want to talk to you. Oh, kids, let me hug them. And it was just sort of like, as kids, you look to your parent to see how do I assess this situation? And it was always just like, we're here. This is Bob. Bob's
yep.
been here for a while. I helped change his bed sheets last night or whatever. And, you
Yeah.
know, just to be in
Hmm.
those spaces without much um, changing in your behavior.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it.
I mean, it sounds pretty profound to me. I at Esalen, I met a new friend in my group who's young. She's like 29, and she was talking about being there when her grandfather died, and then afterwards she started volunteering. She lives in Germany, so it's I don't know what the equivalent would be here, but she volunteers to just like be with people who are towards the end of their life, you know? And I just saw such a maturity in her. And I'm not pointing to that one thing, but it really struck something in me. And I've been called for a while to look into being a death doula, or like I think I have the capacity, but because I've had to teach myself, I still feel this hesitation and
Mhm.
this reaction or this fear. So I have to like do work knowing that I know how beneficial this will be for me. Like, I'm not even thinking about what I can give to the person dying. Like, I'm very selfishly thinking this would be such a beautiful experience because I don't know, it's just such a shame how we treat death and dying in our culture is like
Mm.
something to turn away from
No,
because there's
yeah.
so much wisdom. First of all, we're ignoring people who have so much wisdom just because they've been on this planet for so long. And then, like, death is the birth and death are the only experiences that are universal among humans,
Mhm.
among all beings.
Mhm.
And yet we shy away from it and we don't talk about it, we don't look at it, we don't bring our kids to it. So like, I mean, what a gift to
It's really
just
cool.
it normalizes it. And then it's
Yeah.
like when you're in because for me, I think of that as like the ultimate fear that drives a lot of our human behaviors
Yeah.
around fear. Like that is the big one, right? It's a big
Mm.
unknown. It's and so when you so that's like it's like it feels just so primal. It's like survival or death, and when you don't have a relationship with death or a healthy relationship with death, something that we will all experience, I would imagine that it puts you in like this survival mode more than you need to be.
Okay. Something just clicked with me, actually. Exactly what we were talking about before, where if you practice being in the presence of nature, how does that extend into your life, into
Hmm.
your lifetime? Because I was thinking, what does it take to be able to like sit in a room with someone who's dying and feel okay?
Hmm.
First of all, I think you have to be a grounded person. I think you have to have emotional maturity and just a groundedness about you where you're actually not spending a lot of your energy thinking of what you should be doing because you just
Yeah.
feel very comfortable in yourself. I also think I also think that you have to be willing to let your feelings flow through you as soon as they arrive, as well as witness the feelings of others flow through them as soon as they arrive.
Yeah.
And also, I really do think, actually, I've never thought about this way, but I think practicing being present
Hmm.
is an incredible way to get there. Because
Hmm.
that's one thing that I think that my mother has always done very well and like is the quality of any incredible nurse or caregiver
Yeah.
is to be present.
Yep.
And so I think practicing presence in general in your garden or in your whatever, in yourself, in your cold plunge, in your whatever, walks, thing,
Hmm.
that expands out of you in so many more ways than you realize. Like, not
Yeah.
only does it help you enter your life from a place in your center every day, but it helps others. Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine being at the end of your life and the people that you love or just anyone is like afraid to be present with you?
Right.
Like, or like, I mean, this, what when we were talking about the experience of your grandfather
Yeah.
and like him just wanting people to be there. And
Mm.
because he has amazing, he has you and Andrew and all of your very present family members. What a gift.
Mm.
you
I
know?
mean, um, so my mom's dad passed away. So this is the father who in that generation wasn't as in the home, like her mother raised her more than he did because he was out working. And anyway, um, my grandfather passed away a couple of years ago, and he had just an incredible life. Just an incredible life. 9 kids. One of them was adopted from China in the middle of the nine. Um, and with 9 kids, talk about the life you get to experience,
Mm.
go through.
Hmm.
Um, he had cancer at the end of his life, did some chemo. It went away for a little bit and then it came back. And then he was just like, this is my time.
Mm.
Now is my time. Um, and so then, he and my grandmother made the decision to bring him home. It's like what everyone should aspire to is the way this man died. So he was at home in a bed in his living room,
Mm.
and he asked, his experience dying was so profound
Mm.
that he just told my grandmother that he wanted all of his grandkids to come. So he had his kids there. They were all around him taking shifts. When you have 9 kids, that's great, right?
Yeah.
2 of them had passed away at that point before him. So he had 7 of his kids there and their spouses just attending his death, however
Mhm.
long it took. And then he said, I want to talk to all my grandkids. So if anybody will come see me, I want them to. And it was in the middle of COVID. And he didn't want people to wear masks because he wanted to be able to see them, which I cannot blame him for.
Yeah.
But it was at that time where you were afraid you would cause harm to especially elderly people.
Yeah.
So I reached out to my neighbor who was 80 and her partner was also 80. And I said, here's the experience. Like, what do I do? Should we go? Do we
Hmm.
go? And they both said, you go, you gotta go.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Andrew and I went down, and um and it was just, my mom did warn me. She didn't warn us as kids in front of the nursing home, but she warned us this time. Come see him. Hopefully you get him in a lucid time. Sometimes he comes and goes. But just beware that he cries a lot,
Hmm.
which was a really good thing to be aware of
Yeah.
because he's, you know, not someone. These like
Yeah.
patriarchs do not weep,
She was
in public.
alerting you to something different than you
Ye-
knew when you were a
Yeah,
kid. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So this was like this man that you've seen as this really strong, you know, man. He's crying a lot.
Hmm.
And but again, she was just like, that's what you need to know. He's crying a
Yep.
lot. You go do you. So we went, and Andrew is a musician, so he brought his saxophone because Grandpa had always asked us, at like family parties and stuff, we would sing songs together, and that was something he loved. So
Hmm.
he said, if Andrew comes, tell him to bring his horn. So we brought his horn, and it was winter, and we had newborn twins at the time, and like got my mother-in-law to hang out with them here. Drove down to Cape Cod like 2.5 hours each way just to sit with him for. I think we sat with him for an hour.
Mm.
And he just told us all these stories of his life. And grandma even said, he repeats a lot of stories, but you probably haven't heard him yet. So he just got to remember his life through
Mm.
all of these grandchildren. And there are a lot of us. I think there might be like 34 grandchildren that they have.
Wow.
And he had these like really raw conversations with all of us. He talked about how his um, faith in God, to use his words, was deeper than he ever realized until
Mm.
this moment.
Mm.
And then Andrew played. So after we talked for like 45 minutes, I think he started to get a little tired and he said, so did you bring your horn? And Andrew said, yeah, I did. And he unpacked his horn and then stood. I was sitting on a chair next to the bed, and Andrew stood at the end of my grandfather's chair. So he could touch his feet.
Mm.
And he played a ballad for him. I forget which one he played. I'll have to think about it, but he played a ballad for him. And I remember looking at Grandpa, and as soon as he heard these first few notes, his face broke into this like I don't think I've ever witnessed someone feel such a pure feeling before.
Mm-hmm.
And his face broke into this like abundant joyfulness met with incredible sadness.
Mm.
And he just closed his eyes. Andrew also had to close his eyes because he wouldn't be able to see him and play at the same time. And he was like,
Yeah.
this is what I'm doing for, like, I'm here for this man and I will do what I can do for this man. And Grandpa just closed his eyes and he laid back and he just
Mm.
let it wash over the whole room.
Mm.
It was just one of the most powerful hours of my entire life.
Yeah.
And he had a couple of experiences like that, but he doesn't have a lot of musicians in his family, certainly not ones that are able to be that present
Yeah.
with him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh my gosh. Yeah, it was very, very special. And then we were able to give him two huge hugs and say goodbye and we drove home.
Mm.
Amazing.
It's just really hitting me the gift of presence, like how
Yeah.
profound the gift of presence is. And we don't have to, it's not just in the extremes of birth and death, you know.
Mhm.
Um, we can bring that presence to every moment, but I think it's inspiring me to do the work. So it's when I say do the work, what's hitting me is like you were gifted this experience when you're very young. So in your nervous system, you were taught like I can be with death and the end of life and be okay because your
Mhm.
mom, you regulated with your mom because she was regulated.
True.
I never had that experience. So that's why I say I need to teach myself because
Mhm.
death was kind of this unknown. When my grandmother was dying, she had a heart attack when I was 9, and they left me at home. Like I didn't get to, I haven't said goodbye to or been there really at the end of any of my grandparents. So it was kind of like kept at arm's length. And not,
Yeah.
I don't mean like it was in, like it's hard to deal with. This is hard
Oh
stuff.
my
So
gosh.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying like anyone made mistakes or whatever. This is just my experience of it. So it's like when you're approaching anything new and unknown, my nervous system is like scary, you know?
Hmm.
So I have to teach myself because there's such a gift of just being present with someone at the end of their life.
Yep. Oh
Just as,
yeah.
I mean, and it's interesting because I bet if we talked to people about like the gift of being there and being present at the beginning of life,
Hmm.
they would talk about how miraculous it is. And
Hmm.
yet
Mm.
I think we would gain a lot by building that capacity for the end of life as well.
Hmm. I agree.
Mm, the,
Presence.
the gift of presence.
It's definitely the title for this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Music was recorded live as a part of the sound service at 3S Art Space in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where musicians responded to the changing light in the room that reflected and refracted through Christina's suspended artwork. Andrew Halchak, the composer of this piece, is playing bass clarinet, and Tomas Cruz and Katie Seiler are singing.
My grandpa passed away, gosh, how many years? Five maybe years ago. And I have a much closer relationship to my grandmother, who I just visited, and she's coming to me in dreams. She's coming to me in dreams in the form of like an aura, like an aurora borealis in the size of her in space. And then I told her about that she came to me in a dream, and she said, it's so funny, Christina, because that night that you dreamt that, I had the best sleep that I've had since I can remember. And so it's a fascinating thing to just be very conscious of these gifts now in the same relationship of witnessing someone that you love start to deteriorate in their body. It's an interesting thing.